Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Scott McKinley on a busy Saturday. Of course, released the video this morning of the last transfer portal video we're going to do with the big UNT3, as I'm calling them, with Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, and Wyatt Young. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out. But hey, Scott, we have a ton to talk about beyond the transfer portal. We will not get into the portal. We may a little bit tonight, but we've addressed all that in separate videos. We have too much to talk about everywhere else. So dive into this week of Oklahoma State athletics.
Oh my gosh, like I said, where do we even start? We got cowboy basketball, we got cowgirl basketball, we got cowgirl softball. We had a great wrestling match against Iowa State last week since last time we talked. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the chant. That's where I'd like to start because, to be honest with you, I mean, I've been known to get – I've mellowed quite a bit as I've gotten older. I think people have known me would say that. But I'm still pretty pissed about this chant situation. So let me get your thoughts there, and we'll give mine, and then maybe some people in the chat if we have anybody join here on a Saturday evening. Or if you can't catch this live because this is a wonky time, we're doing this because of the Super Bowl tomorrow, then leave a comment. If you disagree, great. Hey, I love disagreements. We can go back and forth on that. So give me your thoughts on the chant.
Well, first thing I will tell you is I was there and I was sitting low. I mean, I was almost courtside. And I will just tell you, when I sitting there, I didn't hear it. I mean, it was not something where all of a sudden I said, what are they saying? You know, that kind of thing. That I did not have that happen.
Talking about the F-bomb part?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and here's the deal. We all know the student sections sometimes push the boundaries a little bit too far. I mean, that's the case. And if that's what they said, I disagree with it. But I also think, I don't know. I also feel like there's being for lack of a better term, there's being we're trying to find something that went on. You know what I mean? It's like we're actively seeking out to try to find a problem. Because again, I was sitting there, and I'm as into the game as anybody. And so was my friend that was sitting with me there as well. He's definitely a very knowledgeable. He's an ex-basketball official, and none of us heard anything remotely close to what was being claimed. Now, again, if that was what was said, that's wrong, and that does not need to be said anywhere at any time. But I also think that it's kind of, I don't know, it's like a lot of things. A lot of people are coming into a lot of preconceived notions about just. Okay, they want to pick one side or they want to pick the other. So I think my official stance is that if that's what was said, that's wrong. But I also think that making false accusations is wrong as well. And frankly, I mean, it's not. I mean, we've all seen the tape. I can't tell. I mean, I just, again, I can't reiterate enough. If that was said, it's bad. But also, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill if that's not what was actually said. And just play basketball, I don't know. That's just my take on it. And again, I know that I think we're going to get, I think in our fan base, I think in BYU's fan base, we're going to get a host of different thoughts and emotions on that. And it's not, I will tell you this, BYU fans are some of my favorites, because they're always very nice people, very respectful. I had several tell us great game, after the game was over. So
I've had them all be respectful during this whole situation too. I have not gotten into it at all with BYU fans. We've been on different sides a little bit, but they've been nothing but respectful, no doubt.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing that gets lost in this whole thing is there was, and this is the case in the world as well. But there was a lot of good sportsmanship things happening the other night.
Absolutely,
and it can get totally overshadowed by a couple of knuckleheads in a student section
or a coach that overreacts.
Yeah,
that's probably raw with their emotion because they just lost a bad game and they're in the middle of a bad swing. Say what you want, that plays into it, man. It just does.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does. I mean, and that's just, and again, we don't want those. I want good sportsmanship on both sides of the ball. I think 99% of the fans out there do. And will college kids do dumb things? Yes, they will. And yes, that doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be corrected. But again, I also think we need to keep. I think the key word is perspective here.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You know what I mean? Like I said, because 99.9% of the interactions between OSU fans and BYU, 100%. and even things that happened on the court. I mean, basketball can be a physical game at times, but I thought both teams played really well, and then they competed very well. So
yeah. Let's make it very clear. BYU has been maybe the best addition to the Big 12, hands down. Period. They remind me of having like old Nebraska back, the way that they invade your stadium, the way that they love their team. They bring a collegiate, just kind of an awesomeness to the atmosphere. Like, it just reminds me of playing Nebraska back in the old days, to where Nebraska would fill out their allotment of visitor stands, and you really had to bring your A game when you were at home, and then they brought out your A game because they were excited about it. That made you excited about it. It made it a better atmosphere. So all the BYU fans that were there Wednesday night could not be kinder. They were awesome. They created an amazing, for however many people over there, an amazing college atmosphere. I love it. I love having BYU. I love their fans. Okay. Now, I don't think their coach was lying. Okay. I just don't think Coach Young was lying. I just think that he didn't hear what he actually thought he heard. Okay. Whenever he came on TV and said this or that, I still think to this day, he in his mind thinks that he heard what he thought he heard. He just did not hear what he heard that he thought he heard. I've talked to so many different people that were just like you, people that have DM'd me personally that didn't want to go on record or whatever, to a man, okay, and woman. All of them have said the same thing you have. I was in the 300s, so I couldn't quite tell. And so I'm going to be pretty confident in saying if there was a F-bomb thrown, I don't think there was personally, but certainly let me put it to you this way. If there was an F-bomb that was thrown, it was random, it was by isolated people, and it did not catch on. So what you heard on the social media videos, point blank, if you don't agree with this, you are 100% wrong. What you heard on the social media videos was ref's a Mormon. Okay, that's what you heard on the social media videos. The vast majority, the chant from the whole group was ref's a Mormon. Now, if there was a F-bomb thrown, again, it was by a random, individualized person, and nobody in that section caught on to that, and the group certainly did not start chanting an F-bomb. That's not what you heard. And if that did happen, there has been no evidence of that whatsoever brought out at all. Now, here is my biggest issue with the way BYU has handled this, okay? And I get it, they've had this stuff in the past and all that, okay? So Coach Young is an employee, okay? He is not Brigham Young himself, okay? And so there is a protocol for this. If Coach Young actually had a problem with something that he thought he heard in the middle of a basketball game in one of the loudest arenas in the country, then he needs to take it up with the proper authority. They need to vet this situation. They need to investigate it before any public comment was made. So the first thing that BYU should have done was admitted that their coach, Coach Young, jumped the gun. He went ahead of protocol, and in no way, shape, or form should he have taken matters into his own hands and come public with something that he can't verify 100% guaranteed happened. That was an absolute incorrect way to handle that situation. And so from that perspective alone, BYU should be apologizing. Okay, from Oklahoma State's end, whether it was an F-bomb thrown or ref's a Mormon, whichever way it was said, there's a huge difference. So if it was the F-bomb version, that's bigotry, that's targeting, that's ban whoever said it, get him the hell out of here and don't let him back. That's what that comment is. That's what that chant means. That's what every single person would want. If it is refs are Mormon, that goes from bigoted and targeted and banning to cut it out, man. That's not. Man,
Yeah.
I know there's no bigotry here. There's none of that. I get it. It's clever. You think it's cute. You're a college kid. You're not actually demeaning the Mormon religion at all. All you're trying to say is, hey, the ref is cheating, and the ref is cheating for BYU. I get that every time I referee, Scott. Every time I referee, somebody says, hey, the fouls are 5-1. Well, you know what they're accusing me of? They're accusing me of cheating, okay? So all that's all that. But there was no, the refs are Mormon, there's no belittling, no bigotry whatsoever to that. But I will say, if I'm the administrator, if I'm Chad Weiberg, I'm like, come on, guys. Why use the word Mormon? What are we doing? Stop that crap. Just leave it to where there just can't be this stain of an issue happening here. But having said that, that goes all the way from a gigantic felony, okay, like kick their ass out, don't let them back in, to a very much so a misdemeanor, hey, knock it off type situation. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And one thing I would say with the way that Coach Young handled it, the problem with the way that he went about it is it causes problems for both sides. It causes problems for Oklahoma State because there are some people that are going to look at it and just immediately jump to, well, the coach said it happened, so therefore it must have happened. But the other thing, it's not a good look on him because, let's be honest, it makes it, and I'm not saying that this was the case, but it makes him look like you're just whining after you lost. You know what I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just saying that's the optic of the.
Hey, let me say one more thing before you go on. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of fired up. I'm sorry, Scott. I don't want to cut you, and I'm not going to cut you off. But I wanted to say this too. If there was an F-bomb thrown, okay, kudos to Oklahoma State fans because just like Coach Young said, they shut it down. Because if there was an F-bomb thrown, not anybody, the rest of the crowd said, screw that, that's not appropriate. We're not saying that. You're on your own with that. So the Oklahoma State fans turned that down if there was an individual or two that did drop an F-bomb. So kudos to the OSU crowd for that. BYU ought to acknowledge that as well. That did not turn into the public chant. I'm sorry. I cut you off there, but I'm fired up, so go ahead.
No, it's all good. I mean, I think we've pretty much covered. At the heart of it, it's an unfortunate situation. You know, and I don't know what is going to, if anything's going to come of it. It may be one of those things where it just blows over and nothing. You know, next week it's on to the next thing. And to be honest with you, we may already be there. To be honest, I mean, just we're already.
Yeah, that deal by the Big 12, that was just PR crap. They're not investigating this.
Yeah, they're. What are they going? What are they going to do? Of course, I don't know. Then of course, my buddy told me, he's like, well, we are OSU, and the NCAA never gives us a favor. So,
well, if you're the Big 12, you know what they ought to do? Seriously, this is the statement the Big 12 ought to make. Hey, it's a loud gym. There's absolutely no way we can verify one way or the other. Okay, yep. Coach Young thinks he heard what he heard. Having said that, what's not going to happen in the future is a coach of any institution in the Big 12 getting up in a press conference and claiming for themselves that another institution is classless. That's what's never going to happen. That's the statement that the Big 12 ought to make. I don't care if they verify what happened or what didn't happen, right? Because they're not going to be able to, okay? Right. But what they need to say is, hey, no coach is ever going to call another fan base classless in a press conference that is held by an institution that is in the Big 12. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I agree because again, and we said this enough. If the F-bomb was thrown totally out of line, we all agree on that. But if it wasn't, which again, like you said, looking at the tape, I was there and didn't hear it, and I'm as into the game as anything. All you did, Coach Young, is you made Big 12 basketball look bad. You did. That's all you did. Name a fan base that's ever come to Stillwater and not gone, man, this is one of the greatest places in college football or basketball. The Oklahoma State people are awesome, okay? Yeah. It's an awesome atmosphere. Okay, are we rowdy? Absolutely. That makes it fun, okay? I mean, it's the rowdiest arena in the country. Wonderful. I hope students become as clever as possible. Right now, anytime it's a religious name, leave it out. End of discussion. That's stupid. Don't do that. What's the point? Don't do that. There's no reason. Now, do you want to say, hey, is it bigoted? Is it no, it's not. I get it. But I'm just going to tell you from
from an administrative perspective, there's absolutely no way as an administrator I'm going to tell you that using a religious word in a chant at a basketball game is something that I'm going to say, hey, yeah, no problem, guys. Go ahead and keep doing it. There's no way as an administrator, as an adult, I'm going to tell you that's okay.
Right. Yeah, no, right? I agree. I mean, it was stupid to begin with, but I mean, of course, I remember back when I was in school. Remember Kelvin Sampson down at OU had made a whole bunch of impermissible phone calls.
Oh yeah,
and we had somebody up in the stands with a cell phone and said he was Kelvin Samsung.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's great though.
Yeah, that was, but that's. And again, that was great. That's what college athletics is supposed to be about. But I agree with you. Just leave the religion out of it, guys. And here's another thing that I also tell. This just goes out to fans, and I know this is going to be crazy wisdom on them. The refs are not trying to cheat you.
No, absolutely not. No. It was a very well officiated game. I thought the one guy kind of interjected himself a little bit too much there at the end. But it was only like once or twice, but I thought it was a very well officiated game.
Yeah, and I will just tell folks, I've officiated a lot of sports on a lot of years. Basketball officiating is a completely different animal.
I do it every night. It's so hard.
Yeah, it is a very, very difficult sport to officiate. Just because there's so much going on. But anyways, let's talk about the game itself.
Let's do it. What a great game. What a great game.
Yeah, the game itself was absolutely phenomenal. First off, to start with, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, Devonsta for BYU.
Devonsta, yeah.
That kid he's the real deal.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Flat out, he can flat out.
Yeah, so is Saunders. Richie Saunders is big time. BYU's big time. Kevin Young's a big time coach. The BYU fans are big time fans. Everything about BYU's big time, right?
Yeah. So no, they were as advertised. And OSU didn't do a phenomenal job of stopping them. I mean, obviously, what did they both have, like 30 points apiece or something like that? But we did a good enough job of getting enough stops. Particularly one of the things that I think really set OSU well up in that game is we got off to a hot start. And that's something that we really haven't been doing a lot of lately. We've kind of been notoriously getting off to really slow starts. Well, we got up to, I don't know, what was about a 13, 14-point lead.
Yes,
15. It evaporated at halftime, and I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting there at halftime going, man, we had our shot, but we just got out of it. But
all of X, all of Facebook, all of Instagram, and every other Oklahoma State basketball fan. Well, every time I get excited about this team, they piss me off, right? That's how everybody felt at that moment.
Yeah, but then Anthony Roy had a phenomenal game. He was on. Vukovic, he's I use the term work in progress, but he did some good things. But he got some rebounds. Made it to the charity stripe a couple times. And the Cowboys played good enough to win in the end. Of course, I'll tell you what, if we miss any more free throws in those situations, my gosh, how many free throws are we going to miss?
Wow.
But at the same time, okay, we hit enough to win. And I think one of the things that with my friend that I was sitting with, that we talked about, because we went on here and we talked about that TCU loss we had a couple weeks ago, where we just went into the stalemate kind of game. With way too early. The difference in that game is we kept attacking. We go down. Okay, they foul us. They put us on the line. You know what? We missed the first free throw, but at least we got the second one. So at least we're continuing to put points on the board, and eventually the clock ran out, which is exactly what we talked about a couple weeks ago. So the fans that night were it was loud. And for a brief moment, I felt the old ghost of Gallagher Iba Arena again.
Oh boy, I did too. It felt like we were watching OSU basketball, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. The guys were playing hard. The crowd was loud, really into it. And it was just, then of course the court storming, which, all right, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if beating the number 19 team that's on a losing streak is worthy of a court storm, but you know what, guys, we're looking for any kind of positives we can get. So
why not?
Why not? Yeah, I agree. So no, that was fun to watch, and so that was I actually was talking to my friend before the game about that specific game, that we kind of felt like that was a must-have if we want to keep having a chance, because we knew we were going to have number one in the country, Arizona, on the road today. Mm-hmm. Well, you better beat BYU on Wednesday night.
I did that today.
Oh gosh.
I just did that. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Well, and the only thing I'll say about today is, did I have any illusions that we were going to go in there and win? No.
It's Oregon in football.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where there was not a tougher. Think about this today in college basketball. There was not a tougher assignment than what Oklahoma State had. Period. But at the same time, I still wish we'd have kept it within 40.
We had it down to 7 with about 7 minutes to go in the first half, and just what we couldn't do is we couldn't score. But I'm just going to tell you, y'all can disagree with me all you want. I've been in coaching my entire adult career. I played before that. I'm just going to tell you, today was one of those days to where if I was Steve Lutz, I would walk what he did. Okay, so this can get out of hand, and it can get to 15-0 in a baseball game real fast. And literally you can go back and go, well, if we would have made that double play in the third inning, we might have won the game. And people are going, what are you talking about? We lost by 15. It's amazing how one or two little turnarounds. I'm not necessarily saying that happened today, but you pull it within 7 and you just can't score, right? OSU is going to get beat by Arizona. To beat Arizona, really, I mean, unless it's just a lucky day, you got to have 2 NBA players, probably 3, okay? And you got to have a lot of size. That's all stuff Oklahoma State doesn't have. So and here's the deal. Steve Lutz was a baseball coach today. And what I mean by that is we got behind early, and it's like the 5th inning and you're down 6-1, and you're like, we ain't winning this game. And you hate to admit that, but then you go, okay, well, we're not winning this game. And what I don't want to do is lose tomorrow's game because I burned all my pitching today trying to win a game today that I knew I wasn't going to win anyways. So what you do is you just kind of throttle it down. It's called going down staff. And so what Steve Lutz did was he went down staff today. And so whenever if people go, well, I don't want to get beat by 40, I don't care, because if Steve Lutz wanted to not go down staff and continue to play Anthony Roy and continue to, and it's not just having guys out on the field. It's also like, okay, well, we're not throwing breaking balls. Well, we're not going to throw split fingers. We're just going to throw fastballs. We're going to take it easy on the arms, and we're just going to get the hell out of here. So if Steve Lutz wanted to continue to coach like he did on Wednesday, I think they could have kept it within 15 to 20 points. But he decided to go down staff. He decided to say, screw it. I don't care what the final score is. We are going to be ready to go for Tuesday. And so I totally agree with that. I have no problems with the way anything was handled today. Having said that, that sets up the biggest must-win of the season Tuesday night in Tempe against Arizona State. You lose that game, the ideas of the NCAA tournament are all but gone.
Yeah, I agree. And to your point, I agree with the strategy on that, because we were, let's be honest, we were not going to win that game today.
No,
period. No. That was not going to happen. So no, I agree with you. I think the key for this team moving forward, and we said this multiple times, the Big 12 is absolutely brutal when it comes to the schedule. Yes. It's absolutely a murderer's row, if you will. If we can just somehow find a way to win at Arizona State on Tuesday, if we can continue to win the games that we are capable of winning, we've got a chance to get to the tournament. I think that's really what Coach Lutz is going to be trying to focus on moving forward, because I see good improvement in this team. Again, I go back to how fun that was the other night against BYU. If we can just get back to that and win that was a winnable game. Arizona State's a winnable game, but you got to go get those. And we've got some other winnable games that I know they're coming up on the schedule as well. So I think that's the key for that team moving forward, is just keep winning the games that they're capable of. And because I still think this team has got a chance to make the tournament. I really do.
It's going to be hard. Here's the biggest logistical issue this team has. So you've got Arizona State on the road, very winnable. You got Cincinnati on the road, very winnable. You got Colorado on the road, very winnable. You got UCF on the road, tough but winnable. So your most winnable games, the problem, Scott, is they're all on the road. And this team has not been a good road team. I mean, Utah's not a good team. That was a good road win. I don't want to take anything away from that road win at Utah. It was the first one in conference. Good. I'm not trying to downplay that, but you got to call a spade a spade. They're not very good. And then your 2 home games are against Houston and somebody correct me in the chat here. The other One Houston and it's a game that we'll be a heavy underdog in. Okay, so your home games are games that probably, even if you play as well as you can, would be extremely difficult to win. And then you're having to rely on winning winnable road games. And not only that, Scott, I think you have to win all 4 of your road games, because I don't think you're going to win either one of your 2 home games remaining. So if you beat Arizona State on the road, if you beat Colorado on the road, Cincinnati on the road, UCF on the road, if you can win so what this team did is it put themselves in a hole where they had to win their last 5 road games. It's where you're left at. If you don't do that, I don't think you're in.
Yeah. I again, I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult to do, but again, I mean, it can be done. It's just a question of do we have the horses and the gas in the tank to do it, and we'll see, But I do feel like that Coach Lutz has done a good job this year with this team, because I feel like we're moving. The trend is in the right direction. We're just not quite there yet.
Yep.
So yeah.
Let me back up. It's Kansas was the other home, but also Oklahoma State has West Virginia at home, so they do have that game there. So that may give you the margin for error in case maybe if you of those 4, let's say you go lose at UCF. I think that West Virginia game, who by the way got a good road win the other night at Cincinnati as well. So no margin for error. And I'll say this: I'm going to do this of today's game. Okay. I think Coach Lutz went down staff, right? I mean, he basically, in baseball terms, he threw a position player to pitch for the last 15 minutes of that game. Last 15 minutes of that game, Oklahoma State, in baseball terms, had a position player pitching. That's kind of how I relate that to baseball terms. So this last one you can do that with. If you get blown out again, I'm done. If you get blown out again in any one of your games remaining, I don't care if it's at Houston at home, I don't care if it's Kansas at home, I don't care if it's UCF on the road. If this team gets blown out again, I'm done defending it.
Yeah, I agree. And even the Kansas at home game. I mean, yes, Kansas is on paper probably a better team, but I tell you what, home court advantage matters more in basketball than I think any other sport. Because and there's a multitude of reasons as to why that is. That you're used to seeing the depth. When you're trying to shoot to the basket. I do think it can affect the officiating a little bit. Maybe you get a little bit of extra effort on the defensive end because the crowd's getting behind you. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons as to why that is. But so you never know. Gallagher might help us propel us on that one. So think about this. So let's say that we did beat West Virginia at home, and then we somehow pulled off an upset against Kansas. Do you think that gives us just a little bit more margin for error for maybe losing one on the road or something like
100%. that? 100%. If you do that and win 3 out of your 4 remaining road games, it's not even up for debate. You're going to be in.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Because that's your second quad 1 win. You've had a pretty tough schedule. It's the Big 12. So what the deal is, in my opinion, Scott, and this didn't necessarily my opinion. This is from people that I've talked to that knows a lot more about this than I do. So basically it was all about you didn't have a quad 1 win. Well, that would give you 2 quad 1 wins. And because you didn't have enough quad 1 wins, you really couldn't use the conference being so tough as a argument for you. Does that make sense? Now, if you do have a couple of quad 1 wins and then you are 500 in conference, then at that point you can go ahead and say, well, we have 2 quad 1 wins and we play in the toughest conference in the United States of America. Put us as a 9 seed, slam dunk. That's kind of where we're at.
Right. Yeah. And then the other X factor that I think is always out there in basketball is once you get into the conference tournament time.
Yes.
Because that can, you can definitely be on the bubble, but if you come out and you win a 1 or maybe and you sneak up and you win 2, the conference tournament, that can totally change the dynamic as well. Plus the other thing that I think that oftentimes we forget about when it comes to selections, for the NCAA tournament is sometimes it's not even about what you're doing. It's about what happens in the other things.
No, great point. Great point.
Because it depends. Do the teams that were supposed to get in, do they win their conference and therefore only take up, the non-power conferences? Do they win their conference title like they should, and they only take one spot with that automatic? Or if they blow it and another team sneaks up, that smaller conference is getting 2 spots, which is going to leave somebody else out. Those kind of things. So I mean, there's a lot of basketball left to play. I think the message I would send to the team is, guys, everything that you're wanting is out in front of you. And I know that sometimes it's overused, but guys, you got a chance still to make the NCAA tournament, and you've got all the games ahead of you to go do that. But you're going to have to play. You're going to have to play up to that level.
Mm-hmm. Got to hit your free throws.
Yep.
Got to stay organized. Can't go through droughts.
Yep.
Today was basically a game-long drought like we hadn't seen all year. But again, I'm not basing anything on today. But that's the last mulligan this team gets in the discussion. Last mulligan. I'm going to give them a mulligan, last one. So let's get into some of the individual players. I'm going to say A.J. DeBonsa, best player that I've seen in Gallagher Arena since Kevin Durant. Keep in mind, okay, I was proud of Christian Coleman. Keep in mind, I know he scored 36. Okay, I know that's a lot. Don't get me wrong. And when you give up 92 points on your home court, I'm not stupid to say, hey, that's awesome. That's a boatload of points. But I'm telling you, they have 3 NBA players, and because they're offensive. Richie Saunders is legit. DeBonsa is legit. I think the last guy's name is Miller. Don't quote me on the third guy's name. Transfer over last year. So I think Christian Coleman personally did a great job in the second half of staying in front of whoever he was defending, including DeBonsa, well enough to just make it hard enough to where Oklahoma State could keep arm's length from BYU. So I'm going to go ahead and give Christian Coleman quite a bit of credit, because remember, Marcus Dove guarded, however many years ago, I think it was 2006, Marcus Dove guarded Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant dropped 36 too. So when a guy is just as good as DeBonsa is, lottery pick, as Wet Blanket's saying here, sometimes you just got to go, hey, this guy's just that good, but we actually did about as good as we could have asked our guy to do on him. That's where I'm at with Christian Coleman.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a weird thing to say it like this, but he scored. What did he score? 36 the other night.
Yes.
It's one of those deals like, okay, he scores 36. As long as he doesn't score 40, we win. I mean, that's kind of a weird way to think about it, but that's kind of that's. And again, it was one of those deals with that kind of player, and I could tell this very early in the night with him. You're not going to stop him for no points in a game. The guy's just too good. It's just same thing with Saunders. If he had any kind of space out there on the perimeter, I mean, the guy was just money. So no, I agree with you. I think, and then of course Anthony Roy, he went off the other night. Wow. I mean, just absolutely incredible shooting. That one bucket that I think it was Clary had, where it was just he literally just changed directions midair on the reverse layup. That was
Jalen.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Jalen Curry was a badass, by the way, 18 points.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, and that's a good thing to see with the team, that we're not all of our scoring isn't coming from one individual.
Well, you know why though? You know why? Because they got out and ran. When Oklahoma State runs, that diversifies who scores to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I know that's what Coach Lutz wants to do. I mean, I remember getting back with his introductory press conference. That's what he wants to do. He wants to get out and run, and in some of that, I think, I mean, obviously there's tactical reasons. To me, I think the other thing is, okay, the other team just drained a 3. Well, instead of sitting there dwelling on it, get the ball in and let's go do this. Let's go score. No doubt. Mentally, I think it helps you. It keeps you a little bit more. Normalized, if you will, from an emotion standpoint. Okay, they scored, so what? It's a long game. Let's go do the exact same thing to them. It just keeps you, I think it keeps you balanced a little bit better.
So last Saturday, Jalen Curry, I think, scored 3 points. Okay, right? But he had 6 assists, no turnovers at Utah. Was that Saturday? It's all you're in the middle of the season when they start running together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so point blank, man. Hey, bro, you're a point guard. I'll take that every day and twice on Sundays. It's like your shortstop. Let's say it's the 1980s and your shortstop's like your 8 or 9 hole, right? Because shortstop didn't used to be an offensive position. I know it is now, but we're going back. I'm dating myself here. But let's say your shortstop has 6 plays and he makes them all, right? He doesn't make any errors. and then he moves a couple of runners over. He bunts a guy over. And, yeah, he went 0 for 4, but how many runs did he save for one? And then how many runs did he create by playing good small ball? It's amazing to me how in sports, Scott, how, we love to score, obviously. We love to get hits. We love to hit home runs. In basketball, you love to get points, that kind of thing. But when you're a point guard and you do things right like Jalen Curry did on Saturday, it's amazing how the basketball gods shine on you. He ends up with 18. And I'll say this, I say that too to carry that in to the performance of Kanye Clary on Wednesday. Wasn't a great shooting night wasn't even a good shooting night for him. Okay. But you know what that little sucker did? He played 35 freaking minutes, and we had to have every minute that he played because they ratcheted up the pressure. And that little dude did not turn the ball over. And he did miss some free throws, but he made his free throws down the stretch. Without Kanye Clary, that game gets very unorganized, very fast, and we give up points in bunches. So I just think there's an unsung factor to the greatness of Kanye Clary Wednesday, and then also in Curry Saturday that don't show up in the stat sheets.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of, with the stat sheet, another thing I got to think about, I wanted to brag on the guys a little bit, particularly early on in the game. We talk all the time about, in football that,
turnovers
are the X factor. We created a bunch of turnovers, particularly early in that game.
We did. To get off to a good start, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and exactly, which allowed us to get off to that good start because we got a number of steals, creating turnovers, and that's what you got to do. And, and that's one of the things with this team is we've had a bad knack of starting slow. But when we came out and we were starting fast the other night, I'm like, if nothing else, we've at least put ourselves in a position to where we're going to have a chance at the end. Now I know BYU whittled it back again. You can't, they've got guys over there that can shoot. You're not going to hold them back forever. But again, we put ourselves in position. And then at the end of the game, we're able to come up with enough shots and made enough free throws so that we're able to end it. The only other thing I'd say is it seemed like that last minute took about 20 minutes to play with all the fouls, the timeouts. That's just basketball though.
Yeah, it is. So before we move on to the Cowgirls, I thought Victorious Miller was very timely. I thought he was very good against BYU. Parsafala, hey, I like it better when not the entire offense is running through him because it just feels like when the whole offense is running through him, the game slows down and we turn into a half-court team and we're just not going to win a half-court game. So I like it when Parsafala is just part of the offense and not the entire focus of it. I think he had, 13 points on Wednesday. But I'll tell you what, when he had chances, him and Victorious Miller both, they didn't have many chances, but when they had them, they absolutely came through and finished. And on Vukovic, dunk the damn ball, man. You're 6'10". Dunk the ball. He did the second time, but the first time, I was like, dude, dunk the ball. Right, okay, so the last guy I want to talk about before we move to the Cowgirls, Isaiah Coleman. This guy averaged 15 a game in the Atlantic 10 last year for Seton, actually in the Big East for Seton Hall. This is a good offensive player, not necessarily a good shooter, but a good scorer. Hasn't figured out what his role is yet here. What can we get out of Isaiah Coleman?
Obviously on the defensive end, and that's another thing that I'd say to anybody because, shooting can be taught. There's things technique-wise and everything. But I also think that, I feel like guys, when you look like, I believe Steph Curry, and I know Steph Curry works very hard. That guy's just a born natural shooter. He's just got a talent for shooting that some people, again, all things can be improved on, but some guys are just natural born shooters, some guys aren't. But everybody can play really hard defense and create those things, like you just mentioned earlier, create the turnovers, get the rebounds, get the assists, all the other things that may not require you hitting a spot up jumper. Go do those other things. When we put you on an NBA player, shut him down, or at least slow him down enough to where it gives us a chance. Which like they did the other night. So I think that's really what I'd say for him. The other thing I'd also say is continue to work on shots around the rim. Just because you're not a massive, Randy Rutherford hitting it from the midcourt strike shooter, that doesn't mean that you can't get good points.
Yeah,
you
right.
You can score, like you said. There's a difference between necessarily a scorer and a shooter. Well, okay, obviously that intuitively you think that's the same thing. Well, they can be two different things because sometimes, 100%. If you're in the right position and you get a rebound right under the bucket, okay, you don't have to be a great shooter to hit a layup in college basketball.
Yeah.
But be that high IQ player, that you're in the right spot at the right time, and you're creating those opportunities for yourself and for your teammates. That's really what I think the goal needs to be for him.
You remember Keontae Roberts?
Yes.
Out of OCS?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what Isaiah Coleman needs to look like.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
I mean, Keontae didn't shoot the ball very well. He had a pretty ugly shot. I mean, if he shot the ball from 18 feet, I wasn't sold that it was going in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he knew how to score, right? And I think Isaiah Coleman could maybe study a little bit of Keontae Roberts and just the toughness in which Keontae Roberts used to get to the bucket, to finish, and that kind of thing. I would like to see. I know he's not a focal point like Keontae was a focal point of some of those really good teams, and I know Isaiah's not a focal point, but I just think in style, that's what I'd like to see out of Isaiah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my head swimming here, Scott. You're gonna have to. You're the level-headed guy. I just don't know what to think about this Cowgirls team. Every time they have an Iowa State, then they go and they have a Colorado. Every time they have a Arizona State, where they just didn't really play all that well on, what was it, Wednesday or Thursday, whenever they played. Then they have a game like today where they just blow the doors off of UCF. What the heck is this team?
Man, I don't know, because I've been asking the exact same questions myself. We went to the game today, and we took my girls, and they had an absolute blast. They got to talk to the baton twirler, and Coach Hoyt gave them a high five going off halftime. So that was a big thing for my kids. They loved all that. Yeah. I think the challenge I see with the Cowgirls, and this is going to be brutally honest, because I have seen this over the last couple of years. We have good talent. They are well coached, I believe. But this is where the problem comes in.
Always wait for the but. My grandpa taught me that.
Yeah, just wait for it. But we have a really, really bad knack of losing to teams that, frankly, we should be running out of the gym.
It's frustrating.
Here's the only logical answer I can come up with. And again, I don't proclaim, we said that many times, I'm not the basketball expert. Our lineup is very heavily dependent upon the 3-point shot. Now, when you're shooting from three, man, you could knock off anybody. I mean, that, and it's one of those deals where if you're building a team and you're planning on getting into March Madness, okay, and you get hot from three, okay, that's kind of the team that you may want. But the problem is when we're not hitting from three, okay, we really do not have an inside game whatsoever. And I think that's the problem. What I see with the consistency is on those nights where you're not hitting from three, if you have another option to go down low and you can get some easy buckets, you can catch them in transition, score in other ways, that's what prevents the whoopses.
Yeah,
as I call and I think that's really what I think this team is lacking, because I'll tell you, today, man, they were coming out and they were on fire from three, and I looked over my friend I was with, and I mean that game today was over in the first 5 minutes. I mean, the Cowgirls were just absolutely all over. Now again, UCF is not a world beater, but I really think that to me is what this Cowgirl program is lacking. Is it's fine to get shooters. It's great when you're hitting from three. I get it. I mean, you can work an offense around it, but you've also got to plan for, what are we going to do if we're not hitting from three on this particular day? Because when we're not hitting, we can get beat by anybody.
So A2, that had to be cool for Cholacott, golly, I'm stumbling all over myself here, Scott. Cholacott. Had to be cool for her. She transferred from UCF, so got to beat her former team today. She's a good scorer, and she does score from time to time. That's your interior presence. But it doesn't feel like we just say, okay, well, we're in the half court right here. We're just going to dump the ball to A2 is what they call her. We're just going to dump the ball to A2 and just let her post up and score like the men do with Parsifal. It doesn't feel like we use her that way, and it doesn't feel like we ever even play Perez Egareba. I never can say her name. Egareba. Okay. Yeah. So I say that to say today, I was at the game today too. I was kind of proud of Coach Hoyt because it felt like she force-fed playing Egareba, and Egareba missed a couple of bunnies. and they kept feeding her, and they kept saying, make it. We're going to keep throwing you the dang ball until you go up strong enough to make it. And so I felt like kind of as today went on, maybe Edgar got a little bit of confidence. It felt like that to me. Am I being a little bit too Pollyannish here?
No, I think I kind of saw the exact same thing today, and the weird thing is I did take a very quick glance at the Big 12 standings after this game, and I think the girls are either 4th or 5th. But the thing is, when you look at the records, they're only maybe a game or two off the pace.
They are.
I mean, that's what's crazy about it. And I think that's what, from a fan standpoint, and I understand sometimes being a fan, we get more frustrated than the coach that's there and understands everything that's going on during the day. It's like, man, if we just don't blow it to Colorado, if we just don't, blow it to Arizona State, man, we could be fighting for a Big 12 regular season conference title right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the frustrating part. But again, and I understand, we all understand athletics. Sometimes things just don't go your way. But I will say this: if this team is hitting from 3, Cowgirls can beat a lot of teams if they're hitting from 3.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, today everything was working today. And again, not every game's going to be like that, but
it seems like there's no in between either. Either they come out like Iowa State and today, or they don't, and it's a terrible day. It just seems like it's one or the other.
Well, and to me, I think it's kind of this. I'll use an analogy of it's kind of like baseball or softball, where when you predicate yourself only on the long ball, it's either a long ball or a strikeout.
Yes,
that's what happens.
Great analogy, Scott.
Yeah, there's no okay. And when I think what I'm saying is, okay, on a day where we're striking out, let's try to find a way to get a single. Let's try to find a way to get a walk. Those kind of things is we've got to have a plan B for if we're not hitting from 3.
You're a Cowgirls fan, right? You like going to the games?
Oh yeah, love it.
If you happen to come across this and watch this, if you're watching it right now, circle Valentine's Day. Texas Tech, who is one rung above us in 4th place in Big 12, is coming into Gallagher-Iba Arena on Valentine's Day in what's going to be a huge game. Now, kind of like Tuesday at Arizona State for the men, Tuesday in Manhattan for the girls, can't lose. You cannot lose that. If you want to have any chance at getting any kind of decent seed in the NCAA, you can't lose that. But then you have Texas Tech at home. You have Utah at home, which Utah is one rung behind us. Huge game there, so 2 huge games in a row. Then you have West Virginia, who's in 3rd place at West Virginia. You have Iowa State again, which Iowa State is a little bit below you. And then you finish that with a game you should win at Gallagher-Iba against Kansas. So let's say that you lose the West Virginia game and Iowa State game on the road. Let's say those are tough. I personally think you should win. I think you should finish the season 4-2, and we'll see how that goes. That should be a good seed. Anything above that's gravy. So, your thoughts on the finish of this season?
Yeah. Again, this is another thing, and the Cowgirls I think are in a better position than the Cowboys when just looking at the standings, those kind of things, and also with the schedule they've got coming up. Again, everything's out in front of you. And that's the thing. I think this team is playing hard. They did a number of good things on defense today. I thought we did a very nice job rebounding today. And now I will say UCF they're not the best shooters that we're going to see, but
they couldn't score, could they?
No, they couldn't.
From anywhere on the court, they couldn't score.
No, I mean, it's, and we all have those moments when you see a player get open with an open shot and they're like, oh, they're going to hit that. They weren't even hitting those.
No.
So no, I mean, I think the Cowgirls are a good ball club, but we've got to find a way to get that we're consistent every single night. And I know that's difficult with basketball because it's such a, it can be a streaky game with runs. Sometimes shooters just aren't feeling it. Some nights, you can throw the ball up and it doesn't matter where you throw it up, it's going in. Sometimes you have Byron Eaton hitting one over his, throwing it over his back as the shot clock's rolling down from half court and it goes in,
Yeah.
So it's just a basketball. And I will say this, last deal on this, basketball itself is kind of set up to be a little bit more inconsistent, I feel like, than some of the other sports, just because of that, because of the touch, in the shooting. Plus it depends on how's the other team doing as well, those kind of things. And it's a game of runs. And sometimes hit a run at the wrong time, that kind of thing. So
I will say this is a great point by Wet, too. Both teams, I think, short of Parsifala, I don't think Parsifala fits into this category. Just weak around the rim. Missed way too many shots around the rim. Like Christian Coleman made a shot against BYU. I think it put us up maybe 5 again. It was a huge shot. The dude's what, 6'8", 6'9". He can jump out of the gym, and he's fading backwards. And I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm glad he made it, but dang, go to the rim, right? I mean, go towards the rim. Go like Andrea Vukovic, like we mentioned a minute ago. Dunk the dang ball. It feels like it's the same way with Agabreba, and sometimes, even going to the rim with some of the Cowgirls. Feels like both teams down the stretch need to get a lot tougher around the rim, especially finishing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it, how much action happens around the rim in a basketball game? Almost all of it. So that's, if you want to know, it's just a location where you need to focus on stuff that happens around the rim, whether it's blocking out, rebounding, shooting, everything.
Okay, Scott, I'm going to be very transparent. I have not watched 1 minute of softball yet. I haven't got to it. I've been way too busy. I was officiating last night, then I was at the girls' basketball game, and then the baseball scrimmage today, and then had a dinner tonight. Now I'm on here. Had my Dodgers daily duty last night with a long show there. So just haven't had a chance to catch up with any of the softball. So I'm relying heavily on you. Okay. Take us through all of it.
All right. Well, let's start with Friday night. We're up again. We got Stanford, and I watched the game. I think I would say that on that night we struck out too much. Malin did not have her best stuff that I've seen. But really, it just we started generating some offense late. We were able to get on the board with 2, but it was kind of almost too little, too late. My thought on that game Friday night was it was one of those things where we didn't play necessarily poorly, but we didn't play well enough to win. That was kind of what I felt like with the Friday night. But then we came back and we got all over San Jose State. Won pretty convincingly against Cal, and then we run rule Cal in the third game. So got the offense going. Things were looking good. And then the game this evening. So we walked the first 2 hitters, and I literally looked. It was funny. So then we're down 1-0 in the first, and my wife looked at me. She's like, "How we're doing?" I said, "We're going to get blown out." And she's like, "How do you say that?"
Who was pitching?
I think was it Hoffman?
Okay.
I think it was Hoffman. And well, I mean, you can't walk the first 2 hitters. That's, and we talk about this all the time too. I guarantee you, whenever the other team is able to put crooked numbers up on the board in any particular inning, I guarantee you walks had at least some part to play in that. You cannot walk people. And it got out of hand today. I mean, we ended up getting run ruled. So it was not the it was not the start that we were hoping for. But I will say this. I think on the positive side, though, I did see some very good at-bats this weekend. We've got a lot of young players that I think are going to be very good ball players. But I also think that and the schedule's not going to get any easier. I mean, I think we're at the Clearwater Invitational next week. The schedule's not going to get any easier. I think we're playing Georgia, Texas A&M, UCLA. I really think that we need to buckle up, because I do think this team is going to take some lumps early on. But at the same time, I also agree with the scheduling, because I think that that's going to make us better. You don't get better by playing people that are worse than you. You only get better by playing people that are better than you. And I think that this team has got, I think this team has got some talent, but we need to see some development after what I saw this weekend.
Yeah, Madison Hoffman was the one that pitched tonight. So far, I mean, you're not going to make too much out of. And if we look at the Cowgirls, they had 3 hits tonight, 3 hits and let's see, no home runs. I think they were all singles. So 3 singles was all you got tonight. So not going to make too much out of anything, and that's why you go this weekend to toughen up a little bit, to kind of see just where do you stack up against the better teams. But so far, I think you'd have to say this is a team that they can bully teams that they are better than, and struggle to execute to win games against teams that have equal or better talent. That's what it looks like so far.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, I totally agree with you. We know this as well as anybody. This is a very long season.
Yes.
Very, very long season. These games, we'll probably even forget about these games here in about a month or two, just because we'll have so many to talk about in between. But at the same time, I think, like I said, I do think this team has got some talent. I mean, they do. But we're not to that level yet. But again, it's a long season. There's a lot of development to come. I do think that the one thing that I would like to see immediately is we got to cut down on the strikeouts. Strikeouts do you nothing. Even if you hit the ball hard and it goes right at them, they catch it. You know what? At least they still had to catch it. We got to find a way to, extend at bats. You and I talk about that all the time where, all right, you got a pitcher that gets you to 2 strikes. All right, keep fouling them off. Eventually you might get a walk. They might hit you. I mean, all kinds of things can happen, but we've got to find a way to not strike out. And the other thing I also felt like we did a lot, and to be fair, the camera angles were not the best this weekend. I'll put it that way. But from what I could tell, we weren't always swinging at pitches that were actually strikes. And that's another thing that I would say with this team is, if you will only swing at pitches that are in the zone, you'll raise your batting average by 50 points just instantly. Yeah. So I think that's another thing that we've got to work at. But at the same time, also credit to Stanford. I felt like the Stanford pitcher, particularly the one that we saw on Friday night, pretty good arm. I mean, we weren't going up against a rag arm for sure. I think she did a very nice job. So, again, a lot to learn. It's early in the season. I think that this team is going to hopefully take the right approach, and they're going to get better. We'll see what happens. It's only the first weekend.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Austin? As advertised?
Yes. Yeah. She's a good ball player. Very good ball player. I think she's going to have a very, very good career in a Cowboy uniform.
Yeah, center fielder.
Yep.
What was weird was seeing Michaela Wark hit a home run for Texas A&M. That just, I don't know why. That just didn't sit right for me, man. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's it was funny. My dad went to Texas A&M, and I was originally from College Station, so Aggies are like my side team, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just didn't feel right. It's like she's supposed to be wearing orange, not maroon.
What do you think about Godwin leading off? It's interesting.
I think it's an interesting. And
Davis in the 4-hole. That seems opposite to me.
Yeah.
Is that just trying to mix things up, or that's weird?
I don't know. I was questionable about Rosie Davis at third too, but at the same time, I'm kind of that idea is kind of starting to grow on me a little bit.
I told you that was going to happen, by the way.
Yeah, no, you called that. You called that. You did. So
I don't know a whole lot, but I did know that one.
that one. That one is starting to grow on me. I don't know. I think sometimes it can help because Carly can get things going. Sometimes maybe from a hitting standpoint, she's more comfortable, just get on, she can be a little bit more of a free swing. Maybe she gets a hold of one, draws a walk because they're not trying to, they're trying to pitch around her. Well, okay, well now all of a sudden we got a runner on to start the first. So I don't know. I think some of that's just, and I've seen Coach Holliday do this in baseball too. Sometimes early in the season like this, man, you got to figure out what you got.
Yeah, you do.
You got to try different combinations, different people in different spots. I think there's a lot of that going on. And I think some of that came down to we started Hoffman today. Crandall, she bless her heart, she was throwing strikes, she's just getting hit. It's sometimes
it's the basketball thing. It's down staff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and
when I say down staff, I don't even necessarily mean in person and in philosophy, right? Just throw the ball in there. Let's get this game over.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not going to overreact to one weekend. There's things we definitely need to work on for sure, but we'll get back at it next week. And again, I think we're going to find out even more next week. And I'm curious because I'm sure when we get back, we're going to have a pretty hefty week of practice leading up to the Clearwater Invitational.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see how we do next weekend.
You can have these preseason practices, all the inter squads, and they can go very well, and you can say, hey, everything's going great, but you really don't realize how much more intensity you actually need until you go get your ass kicked.
Yeah, and I think every athlete that has played at any kind of level will tell you that, like you said, you can have as many scrimmages, as many things as you want. there is something different about stepping in the box when it's the real thing. I don't know. I can't explain it. There's something different about it.
Yeah. It's the Ohtani deal, the Shohei Ohtani deal. Put your best player at leadoff, because if your best player is at leadoff, they get the most amount of at-bats of any other person on your team. The only thing that I would caution with that, what happened with Shohei Ohtani last year, was at the bottom of the lineup for the Dodgers just wasn't very good, especially when Andy Pages went into his massive slump at the end of the year. So, yes, Shohei Ohtani got more at-bats than everybody else, but he got actually fewer at-bats with runners in scoring position and or on base because the bottom of the lineup never got on. So I think it's going to be I think that most amount of at-bats versus, at-bats with runners on base and or in scoring position, I think that's kind of a juggling act, which one actually is better for a team.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that's one where you can make an argument in both directions on that. But I also think, there's all kinds, in softball and baseball, it's all about, we keep all kinds of statistics. We got statistics on everything.
Yes.
And the truth is, and this is just the truth, you can't narrow down to say how good a hitter is by only looking at one statistic. You can't just say, well, they're hitting 300, therefore they're a good hitter. Yeah, but they strike out all the time. Or, when somebody gets on, they never drive anybody in. So you can't just judge by one metric. But the one that I always look at what really affects the game is, what is your batting average with runners in scoring position?
Yes.
Because that's where that's where the rubber hits the road, if you will. So but at the same time, go back to the Moneyball thing. Well, we got to get on base.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I would look at with, particularly early on, if with some of our hitters that may be struggling against these better pitchers. Work on, and when we tried some today, we tried to bunt, didn't really work. Try to get up there. You know what? Have a good eye at the plate. Get a walk. Get on base. Just sit. If they come inside on an off-speed pitch, stick your leg into it. Force the umpire to bring you back. I mean, that's
foul pitches off till you draw a walk. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Those kind of things. So,
it's called quality at bats.
Yeah, quality ABs, and let's find a way to get on base. I think that's really what we've got to do, because then, we get you on base. Well, now if Carly comes up, now that's exactly what we want. That's what we're trying to get. That's what's going to do the most damage. So no, I think that the girls just continue working on development. Malin, I think is a very good pitcher. I don't think she quite had her best stuff on Friday night. But again, it's the first game of the season on the road. Stanford, they had their new stadium, out there, so they were, that's about all the announcers could talk about the other night was, well, Stanford's got a new stadium. I'm like, yeah, that's great. There's also some softball being played. But
Hey, let me ask you this before we get out of here. Of course, you have your outliers, the 15-run games, and then the 0-run games. So those are kind of outliers, but just kind of from if you do the mean, what's the mean going to be for this club? Does this club have enough power that you see in this lineup to be able to beat elite type of pitching? Can they hit 3 or 4 home runs, draw a couple walks, hit 3 or 4 home runs, and score 6 runs that way against the better pitching?
It's very difficult to say after one weekend because we've got some things we've got to improve on. There's things that I saw that we've got to get better at. But I think that this team has enough that there's enough talent, that there's enough hitters in that lineup that, yes, we can score a lot of runs. I think that the trick is going to become, and again, it's a little bit kind of circling back to cowgirl basketball. It's a little bit of that consistency thing. What we can't have is we've got one player, let's say we got our 7-hole, and she's going 3 for 3 today. She's got 3 singles, but the problem is there was nobody that was on base, so those 3 singles were wasted. That's the part that I think that this team's going to have to figure out, that we've got to find a combination where we can string those things together, to where you're getting 3 or 4 hits in a row.
You know how many walks the Cowgirls drew today?
How many? 1. Yep.
1.
Yep.
That's one of those, as a coach, you go, hey, I get it. It's the whatever game. It's early. I get it. Long side, all that. That's got to change. We got to draw them. We got to get them, because that you got to get on base more. You're not hitting is hard, so you got to find other ways to get on base.
Yeah, like we said before, what gets you beat is walks and errors. So what does that tell you? You need to do on offense. Draw some
Yes.
balls, hit the ball hard, so that even if they field it, they're going to have a hard time winning. If you do that, that's that.
Yes.
The funny thing with baseball and softball is there's a lot of things about this game that are very complex. Hitting a softball is not an easy task. Pitching a softball is not. There's a lot of complexity that goes into this. Coaching is there's chess moves all over the place. But sometimes there are some things that it's a pretty simple formula, guys. Walks and errors. That's it. Get on base, get somebody to drive them in, hit the ball hard, wreak havoc on the defense. Some of those things that's just, you've got it. Whatever you do, the complexity has to fit that underlying principle that is always there in this game. It's always there. And it's never going to go away.
Scott, I think that's going to do it for us here on Saturday night in the Big Town on McKinley Minutes here on OkState Daily Live. So final thoughts.
Final thoughts again, man. It's a great time to be a sports fan. So we got a lot of stuff going on. We got the Super Bowl tomorrow. We got the Olympics going on.
What's the spread tomorrow?
I hadn't even looked. I thought
no. Food spread.
On the what?
What are you having to eat?
Oh, we're doing Cajun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of Cajun?
I think we're gonna have some red beans and rice. I think we got some Cajun, some sausage links and those kind of things. So yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Wow. Awesome. I don't like Cajun. I'm more like Rotel. Let's go make Rotel and have nachos all day.
Good.
Yeah.
Just sprinkle some Tabasco in and it'll all be good.
Hey, Scott, great job. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Casey.
Go Pokes.